Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Burn, Nick, and with me today we have cigar attorney, but now published author, Frank Herrera. How are you doing, Frank?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. You know, it seems like every time you and I talk, it's usually, well, let me back up. Two out of the three times that we talked, bad things were kind of going on. We had FDA looming. We had turmoil in Cuba, which that could have gone either way, and unfortunately, it didn't go as how I would have liked for it to have gone. But then the last time we spoke, we had Judge Maida's ruling, and but now we're getting together and we can talk about something really fun, and
I
that's the
hope
fact
so.
that you have a book that's coming out.
Well, yes, I do. I have what's actually Kindle only, so it's
It's
my
it's a
way of trying
it's a
to
book, man.
introduce. All right, all right. So it's a way to test the waters to see if there's a response and people like it. If so, it'll be print, paperback, that type of thing. So
No, that's don't diminish the Kindle only. That you wrote a book. That's what matters. And we're gonna get into that here in just a second. But first, I'm gonna fire up my cigar. I have the EP Carrillo. It's the Short Run 2023, and this is a 6x52 Toro featuring an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and filler made up of tobacco from Honduras and Nicaragua. And I'm going to get that cut. And the official cutting is brought to you by Dan the Man Ponder over there at Riverman Cigar Company. That's where I picked up this cigar. Guys, if you're in the area, swing on by Dan. He's got a great selection of cigars in his humidor, and he's getting new stuff in all the time. Might be slowing down a little bit coming into the holiday season, as some retailers do. But you know what? That still doesn't mean that there's not still stuff coming in. It just might not be quite as fast and furious as it is over the summer. But there's plenty to choose from over there. He's got a nice, really comfortable lounge for you to chill out and watch TV and hang out and get to know everybody in. So if you're in the St. Louis area, swing by Dan the Man Ponder at Riverman Cigar Company. But if you're not and you still want to support a brick and mortar shop, he does do mail orders. So you can give him a call and get a nice shipment of cigars sent to you right away. It's Dan the Man Ponder, Riverman Cigar Company. And now it's time for me to go ahead and cut my cigar. So you are coming to us from your home office this time,
I am.
and I understand if you don't want to smoke in there. But while I fire this up, and before we get into the conversation about your book, what have you been smoking lately? What's been smoking good for you lately?
Oh, well, I smoke all kinds of things. Whatever's handed to me, whatever's given to me, whatever comes across my desk. So I don't chase the dragon on what's next and what's new. I
Well,
kind
yeah, but
of
is something kind of hitting you nice lately that you had and you were like, no, that was really good. Not to
well,
pick a favorite. I know you have a lot of people that you interact with and work with. I don't want you to
so
put you on the
so
spot.
so a couple of years ago, I was on your show and I mentioned
Uh
some brands, and immediately thereafter, one of my friends slash clients gave me a hard time because I didn't mention his brand. So I like I like Illusione. That's a go-to cigar for me. I like so many different cigars. I can't tell you. I'm not. I think people will be surprised to learn that I don't have a go-to. I smoke everything. I learn something from every cigar I smoke, good, bad, or ugly. Um, Garage, gas station stores, cigars, anything.
I was gonna say, I think it was the last time that you were on. I asked if you wanted to coordinate up what cigar we were smoking, and you
Right.
said, "Sure, we'll do a White Owl." And had I had enough time to swing by the gas station before we recorded, I totally would have, called you on that, and I would have fired up a White Owl, but I
Very
didn't.
good.
So, anyway, so let's talk about this book. So first of all, um, can you give us kind of the Reader's Digest, elevator
Sure.
pitch about what's the name of your book, what the book's about, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So, not surprisingly, the title of the book is The Cigar Lawyer. It is fiction, but there's quite a bit of real stuff in there. Places I've been, factories I've been to, things I've seen, places I've stayed in the Dominican Republic, in Cuba, in Nicaragua, in Honduras. There's even a little bit about Mexico. So the idea has been swirling around in my head for many, many years. I was an English major a very long time ago. And like most English majors, I always wanted to write something, but I really probably didn't have the talent to do anything or the discipline. So for many, many years over the development of my career, I've been thinking about it just like everybody, the great American novel. One day I'll have time, one day I'll have time. And so my wife actually challenged me not too long ago and, basically said, put up or shut up type of thing. So I just started writing. And, initially the idea was just kind of throw something, just maybe a short story, kind of see how it goes. And the short story got a little bit longer, got a little bit longer. So what I have now is really not the full vision, because I think the full vision is more than one book. So it's more of kind of a trip through cigar producing countries with a cigar lawyer like myself who has been presented by some folks to look into a couple of crimes essentially. And I don't want to give away too much.
No, no, no.
But they are, yeah. So there's quite a bit of insight into the factories, into fermentation, drying barns, the areas surrounding factories, some of the culture, and then of course you got to throw a murder in there because what's a book without a murder? So so that's what you got so far.
That's awesome. So when I read the description on Amazon, it kind of struck me as and maybe you might, I don't know what your literary influences are, but it kind of struck me as like perhaps a John Grisham meets the cigar industry.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, listen, I worked when I was in undergrad a long time ago. Again, I worked in bookstores. I worked in numerous bookstores for several years. And, of course, at that time, I was an English major and I, kind of looked down on, commercial fiction and all that. But over the years, there's certainly a place for commercial fiction. So this is definitely not a work of literary, this isn't Milton, this isn't Shakespeare, this isn't any of that. It's definitely, more of commercial fiction, fast paced. So, am I John Grisham? Absolutely not. The guy's had a long, long
But
career, but yeah, but the style I would say is probably comparable.
well, and so I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm looking. I definitely don't want to make it sound like I'm looking down on literary fiction because so when I read, I don't read nearly as much as I would like to. That's definitely. I mean, but I find somebody in their 40s that doesn't say that, and I'll show you someone that probably doesn't have a job. And the thing is that when I do read, I bounce back and forth. I do like a nonfiction, but then I give myself a fiction book, and then I go back to nonfiction, and you got to give your brain something different. It can't just be all nonfiction. So I think there's definitely a place. But what it sounds like, and what I'm gathering, is that you know you have a fiction story. You have your story that you're presenting here, but you've interlaced so much knowledge that you've gathered throughout your time as a cigar lawyer into the story. So there's a lot of like I'm guessing I'm putting words in your mouth, and maybe you can verify. I'm guessing there's a lot of like actual industry processes and knowledge that people can glean from this story as they read it.
Yeah, so absolutely. So I mean, it's definitely a work of fiction, but there's quite a bit of travel information of cigar producing areas, as I said earlier. So I guess the idea was to kind of blend fiction with some nonfiction and travel. What years ago I read a lot of travel writers, And some of the more interesting ones I always found threw in a little fiction, of course, but also I was captivated, and I said, hey, I've never been to that city or town or wherever the case may be. And I said, I was kind of moved to go there. So I've always been interested in travel fiction. So I thought it'd be a great way to kind of mix all the different genres.
No, that's really cool. Now, and you touched on it. A lot of people feel like they have the great American novel within themselves. I own a newspaper. I have my degree in journalism and everything. And it's one of my life goals before I pass away that I want to leave a book behind. I don't know what it'll be. That's the problem. I have no idea what it would be about. I don't know, fiction, nonfiction. It's just one of those things that you sit back and you're like, I'd like for there to be a book on the shelf with my name on it, that sort of thing. And so I guess my question to you is walk me through the process of how you decided this is what I want to do. And then from there, the what was your I what did it take in terms of motivation, drive, commitment to sit down and write every day? Because that's an arduous task in and of itself as well.
Yeah, I think I actually had this exact conversation yesterday with my wife. Because she wants to write something, everybody wants to write something. And the thing is my job, and is like most lawyers that do commercial litigation and corporate law type things like that, we write every day, and we're writing for other people. We'll churn out 20, 30, 40 pages, possibly a day. It might not be a finished piece of work, but it might be a draft, motion for summary judgment, something kind of more long-winded, motion practice. We're constantly writing. I've been writing, my whole life since I was an English major. But the past 22 years, I've been writing for other people. I've been writing on behalf of a client. Essentially writing a perspective, telling someone's story constantly. So just comes a time where you say, "Gee, I'm expending all this time and energy telling someone else's story. Let me tell my story, whether it's personal or fiction or whatever the case may be, but based upon my travel or memories or whatever the case may be, or just straight, having the freedom to be creative." So I think, just as a profession, it's just easier, I think, for someone like myself to kind of sit down and be disciplined and write 10 or 20 pages a day, and then edit and go back and edit. Whereas someone who maybe doesn't have that, in their day-to-day life, it might be a little more difficult, because I think really for me, the creativity part is really the easy part. Finding the time to actually, get the work done. Of course, that's the hardest part, because like all of us, we're all very busy. And then the editing part, that's what I do every day. So that's the hardest part, is going to be just seeing, the response. People,
Oh, I can
gee,
imagine.
gee, that was really boring. You talked about cigars a lot. Well,
No, I understand that because between the newspaper, the podcast, it's like, for the last nearly 10 years I've had people critiquing something I'm putting out on a regular basis. So trust me, man, I get it.
yeah,
The thing that I'll tell you this right now, the thing that you think is going to be the thing that hits just like gold, that's not going to be the thing. It's going to be this thing over here that you put in that you didn't even realize that you'd said or done. And
yeah.
everybody's going to fixate on that. And then they're going to be like, that was great. And just accept it. Just soak it up and accept it because,
Well,
yeah.
I'm coming from a time of my life where I'm not doing this. Um, I'm just doing it because I had to have a creative outlook, or just some path, to be creative and do things, because we're engaged in trials, or engaged in client discussions and work for clients. And it really, after many years of this, I still enjoy it. I love what I do. I think, it's a unique perspective on the law, but I have to have a bit of a creative, you know, whatever the case may be.
Oh, for
And
sure.
and so I'm not writing for anybody. I'm writing for myself. And it's more getting something out. And again, it's not going to be it's not going to be, Faulkner. It's not going to be Hemingway, but it's going to be mine.
I'm sure it'll be great. So, I have a few other little questions here. So the one, when you sat down to write, did you sit down and plot out like an outline before you started the actual writing process, or did you just sit down and just start hammering out content and the story would flow as it flowed and you kind of made it go as it go?
Yeah. So I actually wrote it very much the way that I would write motions in federal court. I kind of think, okay, what is my objective? What are the points I have to hit? What are some of the elements? And then I just start kind of throwing little paragraphs and setting. Okay, I know I want to be in the Dominican Republic. I know I want to have a scene in Cuba. I know I want a scene in Nicaragua. Okay, so what happens in the Dominican Republic? All right, well, in the Dominican Republic, so then those are chapters. Each of these are separate chapters. And so I said, okay, what happens there? Well, I've been to the Dominican Republic. I've been to Tamboril, Santiago, many, many times. And I just started describing it. And then it just starts filling it out and say, well, wouldn't it be neat if this happens? Well, wouldn't it be neat if that happens? All right, I'm kind of bored talking about the DR. It's not finished yet. Well, let me talk about Nicaragua now. So, because of course I'm ADD like most, so I'll start kind of just patching things together and then start filling in, well, this, reread a paragraph and say, well, that's a little light, needs a little more description, needs a little more detail. It doesn't really connect with what happens later in Nicaragua. So let me kind of do a little foreshadowing in this earlier chapter.
So then my other question has to do with the editing process. Mm-hmm. And what I find is sometimes the hardest thing is when you're editing it, you at some point are forced with the idea of like, I really liked this, but it's just not hitting right. And you have to cut something that's kind of like your own little personal, not baby, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Like something you really dig. Was there something like that, or were you able to make everything kind of flow and work the way you wanted?
Well, so I mean, I'd be lying if I said that didn't happen, because that did happen. But it happens less now than it did maybe 20 years ago when I was trying to do something, because I would write a lot of stuff and it would come off, sophomoric or silly, or it wouldn't connect. And then I'd cut all that. And then what happens is you get frustrated and then you just lose. My mindset for this was, this is the story. I know we're going to these countries. I know this is going to happen. And that's the framework. And now fill it in. Very few sections of kind of like I'm going off on this tangent were cut. There were a couple sections that I was kind of going off a tangent, and then you're driving down the road, down the highway, and you're just thinking, well, that doesn't make any damn sense. So then you go back to the computer and you clean it up and work it through. So a lot of the writing, I would say, happens really in the shower or driving. Yeah, no, seriously, in moments where you're kind of thinking through the story rather than looking at the page. When you look at the page, it's really daunting to kind of connect things, because you don't really, you're just looking at white and blinking and things like that. I think you really kind of have to visualize, what's happening, and then be disciplined enough to go back and say, okay, in that section, I need to, write about this. One of the biggest things that always stopped me from writing in previous years was that I didn't trust what I was saying. And now at a point, now I don't care. It's like, does that make sense? Yeah, it's all right. Move on. And then, at the end of the day, again, it's not Faulkner. It's not, it's not a great literary work that I hope, is going to win some prizes. It's more, I just had to make the story work. Right. And listen, it's $3.99 on Kindle. If you don't like
it. Yeah, exactly. But well, and obviously I want to get to the plug, here in a minute. But it's you mentioned that a lot of the ideas come, like you said, in the shower and in the car and things like that. And I can relate to that because for various things, you know how it is. It's the time you have to think. Mm-hmm. And so I know that my voice recorder on my phone is filled with little, like, just mm-hmm. little notes that, you kind of, I recite to myself and go back and check. So I assume that you were doing something similar, just kind of jotting stuff down as you went and
absolutely
circling back to it.
Yeah. Your phone voice recorder in the notes section is awesome, but you have to be disciplined. You have to go back and So I'll let lots of thoughts kind of go through, but then I kind of like, okay, that's the one I've got to actually write down. And then once I made that decision, it's going in somehow. I don't care. I'm making it work somewhere.
Well, and see, and the other thing that strikes me is that what you said about you stop kind of overthinking, what you were saying, and you said, screw it, I'm just putting it down and we're going on.
Mhm.
And there's a thing, I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called NaNoWriMo. It's the
No.
National Novel Writing Month, and it's the month of November every year. So from November 1st to November 30th, you're supposed to sit down and write. There's a goal. I don't remember exactly how many words or whatever it is, but you're supposed to basically just sit down and write a novel throughout the
Mhm.
month of November. And if you break it up per day, it's so many pages and this kind of thing. And the whole process is that since you're limited to just 1 month to write this thing, you don't have time to think about it. You just
Right.
sit down and just bang it out.
Right.
And I've toyed with that a couple of years, and I never make it, in, and because it's one of those things, oh, I had a busy day, I'm not going to sit down and write. I'll write
Yeah.
twice as
Yeah.
much the next day, and then that sort of thing. And I just find it very easy to get pulled away. So I have to give you a lot of credit for sticking with it, and actually, like, because I'm sure there were days throughout that.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I've never heard of this Nano November or whatever it's called, but
Yeah,
that's the mindset from what you're telling me. That's the mindset that I've had, and it's basically don't care. I trust what I'm saying. It's based on what I know. Nobody else has been to these places that I've been to at the times I have and seen the precise things that I've seen. Now, many people in the cigar industry and cigar travelers have seen some of these things, but it's my perspective. So I just, trust in it. And I'm an okay writer, I think, as a professional writer, as a lawyer. So, again, if someone's considering it, then I think that's great. Give yourself 30 days and just write a bunch of stuff. And then if it takes you another 30 days to edit it and rearrange your ideas, that's
precisely.
different. But I think, not to say I think I'm coming from a different place than someone who, is not writing every day. Someone, that has ideas, like as we all do. But I'm pretty disciplined to write something nearly every day for the court or for a client or whatever the case may be.
For sure. So I'm on Amazon now. So let's talk about this. So we can go to Amazon,
Yeah.
and you can get The Cigar Lawyer on Kindle as of
Yes.
and now it is a pre-order, correct?
Right. Right.
So it's being released December 7th
Hmm.
of this year. So we got just a little bit of time to wait here. Um, what's the pro? I'm this might be something that anybody can do, but I don't know the answer to this. So, like, what's the process of getting a book published to Kindle?
Oh, it's surprisingly simple. So let me give you a little background. So
Okay.
again, when I worked in bookstores a very long time ago, and even throughout maybe the past many years, I always thought if you didn't get a big publisher to publish a book, it's just vanity publishing, and it's of less value to someone. So I don't care. I haven't tried to approach a publisher at all. I do have some friends and contacts in publishing, people that I worked with many years ago, and at a place called Borders. I worked at the corporate headquarters many years ago.
I liked
Um, but
Borders. I miss
but
Borders.
but but I felt like I had to get this out and into people's hands. And again, this is not going to be New York Times bestseller, but I wanted, friends, family, people in the industry, that type of thing, to read it as quickly as possible. So
Hmm.
when I started investigating, the Kindle process, it's super simple. It's like ridiculously simple. The cover art, they have something on there that you can do. I did the cover art myself on a separate program. Um, and you have to submit it 3 or 4 days before that launch date. So I'm in the process of doing that now. So it's pre-cleared. So on the release date, it's actually available. And again, I think there's some formatting tips that they give you, things that I already knew about. Font size, margins, silly things like that. And they have some prohibitions, some things that they don't want you uploading. They'll probably also do a scan to make sure that there's no material that's infringing on copyright. I don't know their algorithms. I don't know how they do that, but it's relatively simple. Again, I've got to submit it, upload it for their approval. I think it's 72 hours before the release date. And I don't foresee them, having a problem with anything in there. Since I'm an intellectual property attorney, I would hope I didn't
I hope not
lift anything. So yeah, I think just get on the website and start reading the terms and conditions, and I think people will find that it's super easy. Now, I think the big challenge, of course, is who's going to read it if you do upload it, right? So without promotion and marketing that we're doing now, of course, or some type of hook that people are going to be naturally drawn to it. That's the challenge. So I do have quite a few pre-orders, and I'm excited to say a lot of people in the industry, friends, family, that type of thing. I'm okay with it, and the hope is that once it's published, there'll be some reviews, and then once there's reviews, the general public who might be interested kind of in the topic will buy it for $3.99. Who knows? Now, no one's going to become a millionaire with this book, but it's just more of kind of releasing it to get some feedback. And, if it works well and people are interested in the style and, basically the style, I would release other books, the further adventures of the cigar lawyer, that type of thing.
No, that'd be great. So I have to ask, and you don't have to answer, but you went with a pen name.
Yeah.
Why why can I just directly ask why you decided to go with a pen name?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of silly because in the bio there it says my full name and it says AKA Frank Blacksmith, but Herrera means blacksmith in Spanish, or like iron worker. That's what it means. Yeah. So, I was just trying to test the waters to see if it makes a difference to the general public buying a book by, an Anglo name or a Hispanic name. But the book's main character has a Hispanic name, has a Hispanic background, that type of thing. So it was just more of kind of a little inside joke with myself, to see, how that flies. I've had a couple people ask me about that, and I don't care. Again, the whole book is I don't care. I don't care what you like. I don't care what you think. If you enjoy it, read it. Great. Tell people about it. If you think it sucks, tell me it sucks. I don't care.
Well, no, see that I respect that, because that's the thing. I think that, when people create art, be it writing a book, painting a painting, making music, whatever it is, it's for you first, more than anybody else. And then from there, if other people like it, fantastic. So no, I respect that attitude a lot.
Thanks.
So, December 7th, people can go on to, well, they can pre-order it now, but as of December 7th, people can actually start reading it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you pre-order it, then Amazon just pumps it right into your Kindle automatically. So the idea is if it gets a decent reception, if people just don't totally hate it and and poo-poo it, then I'll probably come out, because I've had some people ask me to actually put it in hardcover or paperback, which has a higher price point, of course. So I'll have a revised, updated version in print that they can order, but that probably won't be until early next year.
See, you could show up at PCA with copies and do a book signing.
I suppose I could. I'm not sure. And the most difficult thing about the book was actually not revealing any client confidences, or kind of being ethical, things I've seen and things like that. So I think I'm pretty clear on that. So I'm pretty good about that.
So what you're saying is there's not going to be any names that we recognize in the book. It's going to be names have been changed to protect the innocent, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's good. Well, I'm excited for you. Like I said, it's been something I've wanted to do for a while. When I saw that you put a post up on Instagram announcing it, or promoting it, I was like, I got to talk to Frank about this. This is really cool. So I'm geeking out for you over here.
Oh,
so
appreciate it.
Yeah. So while I have you, I didn't mention that, I don't think we covered this beforehand, but while I have you, I have to ask. So since we last talked, the FDA has appealed Judge Mehta's, ruling.
Mhm.
I'm asking you this with probably no notes in front of you, so it's literally off the top of your head. So I understand if you're like, I'm not prepared to answer that, but can you give like any sort of like just update? What does this mean? Like where are we at?
Sure. Yeah, so I haven't checked the docket in several weeks, so I can't tell you if an appeal brief has been filed. I don't even remember their deadline for their appeal brief, but it's probably coming up if it hasn't passed.
Okay.
So, they filed a notice of appeal, which is essentially just what it sounds like. It's a notice. It doesn't actually have the contents of the appeal in it. And again, if they've since filed it, I apologize. I'll, call you back, I guess, with, my review of your appeal brief. But the process is, they file an appeal brief. There's a scheduling. Well, they file the appeal. There's a scheduling order. The appeals court will tell them when they have to file their appeals brief, when they have to do mediation, all that kind of thing. And each side has their opportunity to file their briefs, and then there'll be an oral argument in the future. I mean, that's more of just kind of the procedural part of it. But what happens behind is sometimes when you lose a case, you file a notice of appeal just to kind of change your leverage at the time. Because, hey, the other side, you won at trial, but hey, it's not over until the appeal has spoken. And even then, there's, to the United States Supreme Court above that. So it's more for leverage. If I had to guess, I think the FDA's in it. I don't represent them. I don't speak to them. I don't know anything, but I do represent importers. I do represent brand owners. I do represent factories. If I had to guess, I think it's the FDA is concerned mostly about user fees and about losing the premium cigar industry its payment of user fees. And not only that, the other tobacco products now saying, gee, let those guys out. Now our proportion of the user fees will most certainly have to go up because somebody has to pay for the agency's Center for Tobacco Products. Apart from that as well, the agency is by statute as amended by the Tobacco Control Act, amends, the FTCA Act. They have an obligation to regulate tobacco products. So, if they're found to have not had the power to do that, or they, instituted regulations, not in the proper manner, then they need to do something so that they do it. So while they appeal, they may be moving forward with the appeal because they think there's some good grounds to appeal. Or it could be that they're buying time so that they can rewrite the regulations, release the proposed regulations in a manner that they think would survive any further litigation.
Okay. No, that makes sense. No. That makes a lot of sense. I kind of was wondering if this was just like a time buying tactic. So you said that's possibly exactly what it is. So I mean, not exactly, but possibly what it is. So no, that makes a lot of sense to me because it seemed like the I don't know. We don't need to get too far into this because, like I said, I was just looking for a quick update. It just seemed like everything seemed pretty buttoned up, and then they appealed, and so I don't know. I didn't know what was up.
I guess one of the things that someone who's not involved in litigation and particularly federal litigation is it's a very lengthy process, and there's a lot that happens beyond the headlines and the blogs and the podcasts that affect the leverage and the strategies. Months will pass, then you'll hear something, like Meta said this. Oh, well, then that's the way it is. That's not necessarily the case. It's just he said that, and then that just started off a whole path of other legal wranglings for the next 5 years. This case was filed in 2016, I believe. We're now approaching 2024. Who knows? And the FDA is looking to ban menthol and flavored cigars. That's in the final review. But depending on how that goes, that might start new litigation. The key is they force these regulations from a kind of an immature is not the right word. They didn't fully consider the implications as it applies to cigars and other tobacco products. They kind of crammed some cigarette based regulations down these other industries. And and there was a pushback. If the government is going to do something with all their power and influence and organization, then they need to do their job right. And unfortunately, I think they had a leader way back when that said, push this through at any cost. I don't care. And of course, that leader is no longer there.
Uh-huh.
So now that's what's happening. Um, and it's going to continue to happen in some shape or form, whether it's the proposed prohibition on menthol or flavored cigars, or these new regulations on governing the good manufacturing practices of cigar factories,
For
which
sure.
is a proposed rule right now.
No, for sure. Well, we appreciate the input and insight. So, um, do you have time to do the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report where we talk about fun stuff that we're enjoying lately?
I always have time. I'm not sure I'm going to add any value to it. So
I mean, here we'll do this. We'll do this. We'll see. It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family owned and operated. Head over to villigercigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. I don't know if you represent EP Carrillo or not, and if you don't, that's it's not relevant. I'm just gonna say that the short run 2023 that I'm smoking here is a fantastic cigar. It's kicking. It's the draw and it's fantastic. The smoke production's been great. It's been a nice kind of light, medium bodied cigar with kind of a little earthy flavor to it. I'm really digging it. So if you haven't had one, I don't know how you fall cigar wise. You smoke like mediums, right?
oh yeah, I smoke everything,
Okay.
and
Well,
I
yeah.
don't represent them, but they're really great people that I know
Yeah.
personally, and they have fantastic cigars. That's all I can say. And again, I get nothing from this plug.
That's fine. I'm just saying if you find one, I would recommend it. I'm digging it a lot. So
Very good.
so in terms of the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, I don't know what you've been watching, reading, consuming, and everything lately, but what do you have to share?
What do I have to share as far as movies or books?
Yeah,
Not much
movies, books,
lately.
TV,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, not much lately. Unfortunately, I've just been focused on trying to finish up this book and the holidays and family, that type of thing.
Okay, so let's pivot this for just a moment then. So you're coming out with your book. What are some of your like favorite authors, literary influences, things of that nature? What do you when you do have time to read, what do you like to read?
Yeah, so I mean, it all depends on when, but currently, the lighter the better for me. Some commercial fiction is just fine with me. Years ago when, I was an English major and it was a little more heady. Of course, I took classes on Whitman, I took classes on Blake, William Blake, Shakespeare. I can't even remember how many more, but just classes just solely on those authors. And of course, you had kind of, American literature, British literature, that type of thing. But these days, I quite frankly, I read mostly the news. I read a lot of financial news. I read a lot of legal news. Not so much, your run-of-the-mill popular culture news, just because it's just garbage, and you really don't get a story. I don't want to read, 6 paragraphs just so you can tell me what the story's about. It used to be, as you know, you're a newspaper guy. It used to be there was a pyramid, right? And you get the
Uh-huh.
most important information, and then you kind of flesh it out, because
Yep.
people now it's this way. It's all this fluff, and then 20 minutes later you get to like the point they're trying to get to, and I don't have any patience for poor writing like that. So
I'm the same way with my writers. When I get an article from them, typically, eh, well, I should say this: when it's like government meetings, like city councils, things of that nature, I want that.
yeah,
But I have one writer who she's not great with that kind of coverage. She likes doing the more fluffy kind of feature pieces. And with
Right.
that, I'm a little more okay with
Different.
the
Yeah.
inverted because it's a totally different thing. But
Sure.
yeah, I get what you're saying.
Sure, but I think listen, I don't know anything about journalism, but I think what's happened is that fantastic history of feature writing. There's very few people who do it properly and correctly historically, but I enjoy that quite a bit. But I think new writers have found that they want to do that for everything. I don't want to feature writing on the car accident news.
Yeah.
What did it happen? Give me the basics. The who, what, when, why, and all that.
It's because
So
everybody wants to be Woodward and Bernstein. No matter what they're covering, they all want to go out and be that like,
yeah, yeah,
intense journalist and everything. So
right.
yeah.
As far as books, I'm not reading much in the way of fiction right now, but a lot of news. I really, read financial news, technology news, legal news, that type of thing. Kind of boring, but
No,
that's what I watch. And then whatever's on Netflix or Amazon or a lot of YouTube. I watch.
I get that. I was actually just talking with a friend of mine the other day about a show called it's a true crime thing called The Curious Case of Natalia Grace.
Hmm.
It's on HBO, and it's about this family who adopts what they think is like a 8-year old, 8-year old girl with some physical, disabilities. They think that
Mhm.
she's got dwarfism, things of that nature. But then the question becomes, is she really 8 or is she like 20 something? And is she like, psychotic and threatening to kill him? And dude, it goes way off the rails in terms I can't even explain. So like,
Sounds great.
it's bizarre. Like I'm 3 episodes in on it now, out of 6, and they were at like a cow farm with an electric fence, and the mom is accusing the little girl of trying to shove her into the electric fence, and she's the little girl saying, no, I just sat down and the lady fell over and blah, blah. I mean, it's crazy. But then this judge adjusted this girl's age without her even like kind of knowing it. So now the judge is saying, oh yeah, she's 20. So they stuck her in an apartment all by herself, and they're bringing food over to, I'm telling you, if you just want some like not mindless, but like kind of like zone out, like how is this real kind of true crime? The Curious
Yeah,
Case of Natalia Grace is an interesting one.
I'm on it. I'm on it. Well, so as you said that, I was thinking, I did watch Monarch, Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV.
Is that okay? All right,
Pretty good.
that's the Godzilla show.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I don't have Apple TV, but that's the thing that's going to get me to subscribe to it.
yeah.
Ted Lasso, I'm going to watch that while I have it, but this is the thing. So let me ask, did they drop the whole thing at once
No,
or
no, they're killing me. They're killing me. I think that they're on like episode 3 or 4 is about to drop. I'm looking at my Apple TV on my phone right now. I think 4 drops December 1st. So episode
okay.
4. Yeah, so I'm 3 episodes in.
Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
wait until all of them because I have way too many of these apps. I can't afford to sign up for another one. And so my thought is wait for all of them to be out. Find like a 7-day free trial and just marathon the hell out of it. But what I love about that show is the concept that Kurt Russell and his son are playing the same character, but like in different time frames, correct?
It's incredible. I don't want to give anything away at all, but there is a
Okay.
scene. There is a scene, and they I don't know what the term is in filmmaking, but they're focused on Kurt Russell and they fade in his son's face, and it's uncanny. And I'm sure there's some Hollywood magic there going on as well, but it's pretty uncanny.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
that. So, and I like Godzilla, so whatever, it's like
for
I'll
sure.
watch it. Um, yeah. So no, in terms of any, I'm not really. Well, I can't say I'm not really reading anything. I have one book that I have been like very slowly getting my way through. It's the first of the Parker novels by Richard Stark, The Hunter.
Oh yeah,
Did you ever see there was that movie with Mel Gibson? I think it was called like Payback.
I didn't see that.
Okay. It's based off this, and so like I'm maybe about, I don't know, I'm not quite halfway, but there's this guy Parker, and he obviously worked for these criminals, and he went away. Well, now he's coming back trying to get what's his, and he's just plowing through these guys, getting to the money that he's owed and everything like that. And it's been a real kind of crime noir kind of thing. But there's a whole series of books that this guy's done with this character. So I'm looking forward to finishing that and seeing if I liked it enough to keep going. So because I like a good series. Like I read the
so it's funny you should say that, and not to bring things back to me, but let's do that.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
So my wife was saying, why are you doing, the whole idea? Why didn't you just release this country, then this country, then this country? And so I was fighting with that quite a bit. And I think I can do both. I can do this, and then thereafter kind of go through and, revisit those countries under a different, setting and different, well, not setting, but, reason to be there, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's funny you say that, because there's so many ideas. It's really difficult to get them all into one book.
Totally. And I mean, and you get a character that's fleshed out well enough, you can drop that character in all kinds of different settings. I mean, in Fleming with Bond, I mean, my God, you had Bond in Under the Sea, you had Bond in space, you had Bond, doing this and that and whatever. I mean, it's like you just flesh out the character well enough and you can do whatever you need to do with them. So who knows? Maybe the cigar lawyer is going to be, scoping out new tobacco products on the moon's surface at some point.
Put some rolling tables in the space station.
There you go. Who knows?
Coming. They need tobacco there. There's no tobacco there now, from what I understand.
See, it's perfect. Martian cigars. I mean, it's the next new expansive field for us to look at. So that's perfect.
Awesome.
Well, very cool. Well, in terms of other housekeeping, I need to get to. Guys, if you haven't tried My Monthly Cigars, Nick Gervais over there at My Monthly Cigars, he does a premium cigar subscription service. Box comes to your door once a month. You can get a variety of size boxes. I get the Robusto box, which is 4 cigars for $30. He also does an El Presidente box, which is 8 cigars, 2 of everything in the Robusto box for $50. It's a nice way of trying a whole bunch of different types of cigars and not having the commitment of going out and buying, a box or whatever it is in order to get the price per cigar that you're paying through his subscription. So if you use offer code PULPIT, that's PULPIT, get your free shipping on the first box. And while you're over there at mymonthlycigars.com, you can try his fucking good coffee. He has a variety of different blends, but he also has the Daily Press, which is the official Cigar Pulpit coffee. So get some coffee, get some cigars over there at mymonthlycigars.com. And in terms of the socials, where can people follow you and find out more about the book?
So, the usual places, Facebook, Frank Herrera. I'm sure I'm not the only Frank Herrera in the world, but if you look at Frank Herrera Cigar, Frank Herrera Cigar Law, something like that, you'd probably find me. Twitter, now X, I think is at Cigar Law. Instagram is just Frank Herrera. LinkedIn, Frank Herrera. Again, I don't know, put in law or something like that, or Herrera in Sardinia, which is my firm name. And then our firm website is herrerasardinia.com.
Fantastic. And we're available on Instagram at the Cigar Pulpit, as well as on Facebook, where we have the Parishioners Group. And while you're over there, make sure if you're a member of the Parishioners Group, you're voting in our top cigars of 2023. And if you're not a member of the Parishioners Group and you want to vote in the top cigars of 2023, sign up. It's a closed group, but just sign up and I'll let you in. And then you can have your voice be heard as well. I'm on Twitter/X. Don't really do a whole lot there, but I suspect before it's said and done, I'm probably going to end up having to do a lot more there. YouTube, at least until they decide to start taking my videos down, and we'll go from there. So anyway, well, Frank, I really do want to congratulate you for this. This is a big deal. You're being humble, talking about how you're not one of these literary giants, but you know what? They had people that they were looking up to as well when they put out their first works and stuff. So who knows? You might be the next author with a nice series of novels and everything else. So don't sell yourself short. I'm looking forward to giving it a read.
Very good. I appreciate it. Appreciate the time. Buy it, read it, tell me what you think, good, bad, or ugly.
And that's the thing, guys. It's $4. It's less than half the price of a premium cigar these days. So, get yourself a
Like
book.
2 White Owls. Just buy 2 White Owls.
There you go. Instead of
Not
buying
bad.
two, it's like just sacrifice 2 White Owls from your budget, get the book, and then settle in with your Kindle and fire up a cigar and read the book. It'll be great. So
Awesome.
anyway, well, Frank, thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
This has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. That's Frank. Everybody stay safe and stay smoky. In my haste, I totally neglected to give final thoughts on the EP Carrillo short run 2023. I have nothing bad to say about the cigar. It's super solid. The construction on it's been great. Flavor on it's been nice. I need to see if Dan over at Riverman has a few more because I only bought the one. So I'm going to see if I can find a few more. So if you guys are looking for something great from EP Carrillo, give it a shot. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks again. Take care.
All right. So stop that.